All right, and we're back with another episode of the Writers Podcast.
Hey,
Cheers, man!
Cheers!
Oh, okay. I have to focus on opening this.
Yes, sir.
Oh man, thanks for the report, bro.
Hey, speaking of Tatooine, right before we hopped on here, notice the what is it called? The
AT-AT?
AT-AT.
Which some people call an at, which I found really weird because like it begs the question: is then the ATST the at-est? Or do you just break the rule halfway through? That always struck me as really odd for what I would argue is an obvious reason, but I tend to think that my points are self-evident.
As long as they're not calling it AT&T, we're good.
Exactly. That's all that matters.
Cheers.
All right, Kason, would you like to tell the folks back at home?
Yes. By the way, am I looking here?
Dude, are there any rules?
No rules.
It doesn't matter.
That's not how we fly.
I'm not really good at making camera lens contact. It's not even something I had to think about until recently.
I want to stare into the eyes of our audience. Tyler,
I'm
looking at you.
We're watching you. Don't think this boom arm is in my way. I can see you. Okay, so would you like to tell the folks back home what today's episode is about?
Yeah, absolutely. So, if you're a writer, you've probably heard of NaNoWriMo by this point. It was originally this kind of smaller contest that just exploded in popularity, and it's essentially trying to write 50,000 words in November. The definition and the goals vary person to person. Some people are like, hey, I'm happy with 20 or I'm happy with 30K. Like personally, I'm aiming for 30K this November. But it's a deliberate month where it's like, okay, in November, I'm going really, really hard trying to get a large chunk of my manuscript done. So it's kind of like a writer's January, let's say, where it's like a reset for the year. You're pushing through for your goals. And so we're going to talk about NaNoWriMo. I'm doing it this year. Belton is not, but you kind of are because you're still working on your book.
I am.
So you could just redefine what your NaNoWriMo goal is and say you're doing nano, but
yes,
we're going to talk through how we go about writing, what our techniques are, and I think that sums it up.
Absolutely. Now, I think that I really kind of dominated the conversation in last week's episode. So, Kason, I would love for you to kind of like take the charge here, especially since you actually being a practitioner of today's topic of interest. I was thinking that you could, kind of walk our audience specifically through how you have embraced this challenge and what value it has to you. I'm kind of giving you an open-ended question.
Yeah.
On purpose.
Take this where we want to.
Because I would just love to hear where you want to take the conversation in regards to how it's helping you accomplish your goal, which, as I understand, is finishing what is your fourth book. I mean, they keep piling up. You're fourth book.
Thanks, man. So this would be my first year participating in Nano. And what's interesting though is when I was writing my third book, the last book of my trilogy, I was in some ways very I would say actually writing it was fun because it was kind of like a blank page. I had a defined world and characters in it. So I on my own was hitting 3,000 words a day all through the month of January in like 2022, somewhere around then.
That's nuts, man.
It was a wild month. And I mean, do the math. I pumped out a full book in pretty much a month, which was insane. I cannot hit that word count currently. I also cannot commit that number of hours to, for a lot of reasons. But that was kind of what I had hit a few years ago. So I've not had that output since. Like I was telling Belton, nowadays it's like 30 minutes. I'm happy if I pump out 500 words, 300 to 500 words. So this year though, what really got me interested in Nano was last year, a couple members of our Writers Guild group participated in. They were like, "Oh, we're doing Nano." I had no idea what they were talking about. To me, I was like, "Okay, nanotech. Like, are we like going to start? What's going on here?"
It's a sci-fi thing.
Right? Like it's a little bit of a weird thing. And also I read the word for the first time. Mm-hmm. So I would just call it NaNoWriMo, and I think it's Rimo. So anyway, I was like, you know what, this year I'm gonna go for it. And I had this I participated in Preptober, which is where you kind of plan out your book, you outline it, decide what you're gonna shoot for in November. And for me, if I hit 30,000 words, I'm going to be really, really happy. Right now, I'm way off pace. But I have kind of just gotten to a point where I think I'm going to be able to flow with the story. And so, it's just a matter of sprinting right now.
Absolutely, man. Yeah.
Because Nano, I think a large part is just getting the words out, and then you can go back and edit. And that's actually something that you've been practicing for your book.
Yeah. Hey, nice segue. Also, the sparkling water is really good. Thanks for that. Yeah. So in my case, dude, right? So I mean, just like any other writer, one of the biggest obstacles that you can tackle as a writer, especially when just like trying to finish a book, is writer's block. You'll hear all the time, getting the beginning of your book down can be easy. Getting the end is easy, but man, the middle, that's oftentimes where writer's block will come in. And sure enough, that's the part of the book that I have been struggling with for a long time. Now, I have completed a number of drafts that have the whole story complete. However, I've been redoing it, kind of molding it, trying to improve it over time. And I've consistently found that the middle part is a real struggle for me. It's tough, right? And so I'll hit writer's block. And the question I've been asking myself consistently is like, well, how do I push past writer's block? And, harking back to what you just said when you kind of initiated that segue, it's just getting words down on the page. Now, when I'm really absolutely hitting a wall and I'm like, I have no idea where to take this chapter, even if I've like outlined a chapter and I know who's in it and what they're gonna do, what the sort of mini arc is supposed to take place in that specific chapter, it's really the kind of, it's the details that'll often escape me. Yeah. And I have found it's usually, now everyone's a different sort of writer, but I have found in my case in particular, the blank page is really what intimidates me. It's when there's nothing there to go off of and I have to just lean purely off of imagination that I kind of find myself at, incidentally, a loss of words. And I have found it's because the way in which I really write most easily, most effectively, is to go back on pre-existing content and refine it. Usually, the first problem I find when I write is that there's nothing written yet. And the second problem is infinitely easier to solve, which is how do I improve what's here now? But that requires me to get words on the page. So what I've done with myself is I just set a word count goal, not for like the month. So I'm sort of doing something akin to this writing challenge.
You're hitting 800 a day, by the way, right? Like,
and sometimes
it's more than me currently. So.
Oh, well, I mean, I got less on my plate than you do. I mean, you've got a lot going on, so like the amount that you put in is impressive, because like isolating yourself, focusing and all that. I don't know about you, but like I'm not really able to write when I'm around other people.
I would agree. Yeah. I think for me, like I need to write at like 5 a.m. or late at night.
Yeah. So anyway, so the primary restriction I put on myself, the expectation I put on myself, is just a word count. And so I'll sit down and I'll write a chapter, and maybe, the first time, kind of to break down the whole iterative process, initially a chapter is created through an outlining process in which I just write down a bullet point list of events on a chapter by chapter scale, as it were. And it's basically just a list of all the events that build up from one to the other that culminate in the climax for that act. And from there, I go to the chapter and I'll write the chapter. And again, I just have for myself a set goal of words to write. I have found 800 words per day currently is the sweet spot. I found...
And is that like in a half hour? Or like...
It takes about a half hour, yeah. So I was, for a little while, for a few days, a week or so, I was timing myself. And I found consistently within 30 minutes, I would crank out about 800, 850 words. And I also found that within a 30-minute session, when I get myself just to sit there and think about writing, that's a small enough time commitment that I can easily commit to it each day without feeling exhausted by the commitment. Like today, I've had a busy day and I haven't been able to, do that yet. And yet I know after we're done here, I can sit down for 30 minutes and write.
I was going to say,
it won't be a problem. Yes.
In half an hour, if you think about that and you do that for, and check me if my math's right, but for 4 months, you're going to have a book, like right there, about just shy of 100,000 words.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's how the work is done. And really, I mean, the trick is to get the ball ball rolling for me. It's about getting over that hurdle, getting something to connect. It's so nebulous though. I mean, so much of like the writing process as an art form is emotional for me. And there was something about when I wrote Act 1, the last version of Act 1 that I really, really was happy with, that I've told you about.
Yep.
There was something about that just sort of clicked, and I was really pleased with it.
Was it more of like you stumbled upon a like the what you deem as like, okay, this was the correct path for the story? Like, was it kind of trial and error because you have written a bunch of different iterations of Act 1? And I'm also like surprised that didn't then lead to, like, you talk about the middle part, Act 2 being much easier just because, you know, if you have the correct setup and trajectory, the story tends to take care of itself.
Yeah, so dude, I hit the ground running with Act 2 and I was feeling good, right? And I lost a little bit of momentum going into Act 2 because there is a narrative reset with Act 2. A lot of the story shifts at that point in the book.
That I know why.
And yes. But I keep pointing wrong.
I know.
I'm like looking at it. Anyway.
We also got a camera here and like a TV.
We're loaded up. We're going to figure out a setup sometime. Anyway, so... Ooh, Legos.
No, we do not have ADHD.
We are sponsored by Lego, though. No.
Yes.
Okay, so...
Please.
Right, so I kind of like fizzled out was what happened, and it was because I was so happy with how Act 1 was. I was really struggling with how to make Act 2 match pace. All that being said, so answering your question, you asked me something to the effect of how I kind of came upon the idea that sparked that version of Act 1, like my last burst of writing, which funnily enough, that Act 1 is 50,000 words. So that was it.
How long is your book going to be? Is it 50K for each act, or?
It might be. I can tell you Act 1, the final act is definitely going to be shorter.
Okay.
By design, because it's exclusively about, you know, funneling all the plots, not expounding on things, but stripping them down. You know, the cast is going to be smaller.
Nice.
And it's not going to be about little quiet moments. It's deliberately designed to be faster paced and wrapping things up. Nice. So the final act, Act 4, has always been faster and thus shorter.
Wait, sorry, so there's 4 acts?
Yes. I've added a 4-act structure for a long time, which is perhaps a little unconventional.
Did you have that when I wrote it?
Yes.
Sorry, this is just a personal question.
Yeah, that's the way it's been for a long time. That's just how I formatted it. There's like some other books I know of that are like that. I think I kind of modeled the structure after Sphere by Michael Crichton, which is a book I highly recommend to both yourself and our viewers back home.
Tyler.
Hey, Tyler. Yeah, but anyway. So anyway, truth be told, man, that kind of spark that comes to me, the dedication of like getting myself to write so many words per day, it's more about getting myself involved in the writing process in the hopes that some spark will ignite again. It's very rare. The last time it happened was when I wrote that act, and it all started with me. I can remember it was back when I was living in the apartment before I bought this house, and I'm laying in bed and I just imagined, I was trying to sleep, but I just had this distinct vision in my mind of like some people in the desert. It's cold, it's dark, they're sitting around a cackling fire.
Nice.
And they hear the clink, clink of spurs, and they look up in the darkness, and slowly this guy, like slouched over a donkey, clearly he's exhausted, comes into view.
I've read this part.
And I was like really fixated on that image, and I've heard of other authors. I'll bring up Michael Crichton again.
I could tell you were though, because that was a vivid scene, like having read the draft.
Yeah, because the image was strong in my head. But that's the thing. That's where the writer's block comes in, is that I'll have chapters down the line where there is a desire to kind of capture that same magic, but it's not quite there. And the solution is work. The solution is these kind of writing challenges where you tell yourself, I'm going to write this many words.
Well, it's almost like you're creating and I've heard of other authors that have done this, but they will write an entire draft, and that is their outline, because it is easier to go and
that's so
build off of something. And so if you just accept that it's like, okay, this is gonna suck 80% of it, but you go back and you can revise that. I actually think Brandon Sanderson mentioned, I forget the author's name, but someone who does do that. So it's kind of crazy if you think about it, using a full book as your outline, but it makes sense for a lot of people. I've tried to stick to an outline. I tried to stick to it with my new book.
Yeah.
And I did not like being put in a box. I think Stephen King talks about this, where it's like outlines are kind of boring because you have to, it works for some people, and maybe you can build a tighter and more. For me, like I'll just use his word. He writes highly intelligent books, but it's like maybe you can write a more intelligent book if you've got just a very clear structure for everything.
Yeah.
But it wasn't worth the cost of the creativity, and I would say the spark to stick to an outline. Just for me, that I was not vibing with that. But I do like using a draft where it's like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna word vomit, and then that's my outline.
Oh man, I have to do some level of planning. I agree that like I found, everyone's different, so I'm just sharing what's different for me. So you talk about that being restrictive to you. I need the focus because I'm just not a wanderer by nature with storytelling. When I'm wandering, there's that beautiful. Is it Tolkien? Not all who wander are lost. Either way, it's a beautiful quote.
Yeah, I think that is Tolkien.
We're professional writers.
Yeah.
It's a
we
beautiful.
do wander and we are lost.
That's just the thing. When I'm wandering, it's because I'm lost.
Did we just think of our podcast name? Oh wait, we have a podcast name.
We have a new podcast name.
The Lost Wanderers.
That's honestly
Lost and Wandering.
And it's just a picture of me like holding a map, looking really daisy.
Yeah, and I'll be like pointing.
You got a cloak and you're.
Anyway, sorry, I digress.
Yeah, but okay, good word. Today's word is digress.
We should have a word of the day.
Yeah. So the next theme. Okay, so when I'm wandering, I am lost.
Yeah.
So many times when I've had writer's block that was sustained even through writing sessions, it's because I was only writing and not planning. Sometimes give me one second. Sometimes I have to like just sit down and just like write stuff.
Pen to paper, y'all.
And the whole purpose of that is to take the stress off of expectation.
It's a nice notebook.
Thanks, man. I've done a lot of world building on that thing. I've written backstories about characters and all that. And basically, the structure, and it's not consistent because it's really at the mercy of whatever like source material I found that I can kind of feed off of. But I'll sit down and like write about my characters, write about their backstories. Write in a peripheral way, not write the story, but write all the things that touch on it in some indirect way. And that gives me something to reference. And it was very effective because there's been times where I had characters who I already knew through outlining talk to each other. And the basics of what they're going to talk about. But this is a book, not a movie. You don't want a super stripped down, focused, minimalist dialogue. You want something with some more depth. You want it to have, you want it to model a bit more of the kind of aimless conversational tempo of real life. Because if it's too stripped down, it's too focused, it comes at the cost kind of feeling a little shallow.
Scripted, shallow.
Scripted, artificial.
Yeah.
Convenient instead of earned. And so I find that if I've written a bunch of material about their backgrounds, about what they think about this or that thing that happened to them when they're 6 years old or whatever, then it can kind of inform the way they talk about each other and what kind of, nicknames there might be for this, that, or the other thing because there's some background from which to reference. All that being said, I still need to journal random stuff to fill in details, and I need an outline as a skeleton. It just tells me what my focus is. Like with every act there's like a goal, and that's the goal, and I'm not deviating from it because I've never happened upon a better idea. I personally just haven't. I've never improvised my way to a more satisfying conclusion. I just don't think my brain's wired that way.
Interesting.
I set myself toward a goal and I build up to that through like layers of sediment in a sense. That I'll start with those really sloppy written chapters. And so like basically the bedrock of all of it is having those goals of I'm going to write this much. And hopefully one day a spark comes. But usually kind of like, how you might get like a runner's high or something, or some rush from working out. That only happens if you really push yourself. If you go to the gym and just sort of sling some weights around, you're going to be bored. You're going to be unsatisfied.
9 times out of 10.
You're going to go home and you're going to wake up no stronger, no better, and months are going to go by and you're not going to see any results.
Mm-hmm.
And chances are you're going to stop going because you're not going to enjoy yourself. But if you push yourself, you're going to feel something. It's going to feel good. And the most important part, you're going to start.
Belting works out.
Yes.
If you couldn't tell.
But yeah, it requires that, but that also requires consistency. So like effort and consistency. So like I got really sidetracked when I bought my home and wasn't focused on writing for a hot minute. Fortunately, like I'm in a stable place now. Like I'm not looking to sell this. I'm just working on it. Like it's in no sellable condition at this point because I've been working on it.
Good, man.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, but it's a process. You know, like that flooring is not consistent because I've. But anyway, point being, I kind of like took a break from writing, right? And it's a process getting back into it. And the thing now is just to like stick to the guns and try to get that spark back, knowing that it comes and goes. It's a fickle thing. The muse is a fickle thing. But in the meantime,
yeah, well,
I
was going to bring up the muse. We have other members of our writing group who view the muse as something to.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we had a conversation about that one time.
Seduction, but I don't think that's the right word. But what's the word? Romance? Romance their muse?
I kind of came in at the tail end of that conversation. I don't even really remember, and it was a long time ago. I don't even really remember what I had to say to the question of like, what is the muse to you?
Well, I do, and mine is I think you need to go to war with the muse. That's how I've always viewed it. Is like the muse doesn't give you anything. You have to like straight up beat it into submission. I mean, it is a dragon. You pull out your sword and like charge that thing. And I'm not trying to be all rah David Goggins. It's just how it is. It's like the muse does not come to me like ever. So I mean, I love what you're saying because I think like write the slop, and you'll be surprised because there's gonna be some diamonds in the rough. And
I totally agree. Yeah. Like you gotta put in effort.
Fight the muse.
Yeah, you gotta put in effort, and then you'll get something out of it. But if you don't, you'll never get anything out of it. So like. Lately, man, I've been getting myself back into the writing and increasing my word count goal. Like right now, it's at 800. I may increase it, but I want it to stay at a realistic parameter. I don't want to overcommit.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm getting to a point. Like right now, the stage I'm at right now is like I've written a number of chapters and I've rewritten them several times. And for a long time, you would scroll through the chapter file. And it would be like a long, winding, passage about XYZ events, and then multiple paragraph breaks, and then the same thing written sometime before.
Because you had just like
reset.
Yeah.
I had just reset and reset.
Yeah.
And recently, I've deleted all the old stuff and gone through and followed the same basic structure that I sort of formed into. And just try to put in a little more detail. And in recent writing sessions, I would like leave myself a note. Like I would reference something that a character had and say, next time do some research on this thing and kind of delve into some of the detail about.
What tool do you use again? Do you use Scrivener?
Yes, I use I use Scrivener because Kaysen recommended it to me.
Longtime Scrivener fan, 10 years strong, and it's amazing. I love the comments. Like if I've started doing that too. I actually only started that with my 4th book, which I should have done a lot sooner, but it's like, hey, if you're not sure about a name or a place or something, like right now I don't know what the world's called, I literally write world and then I drop a comment and I'm just like, revisit.
That's smart, yeah, because then you got the find all replace feature you can use.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's
Dude, honestly, Scrivener's really great. Yeah, you recommended it to me, and funnily enough, dude, before you recommended that to me, a dedicated massive document word processing program, like purpose-built for handling large documents.
You don't want to be scrolling through Google.
Before that, I was using, being the Apple fanboy I was using just, and this is laughable to people because this is not a strong word processor at all, but I was using Apple Pages. And you know what I started doing? And it was kind of funny. The system by which I organized the documents through folders was the way in which I developed structuring my book.
Ooh.
Because, early on it started
like
off...
the axe.
Well, yeah. So early on it started off with just like a folder that had the book's name. And then you go in and there was the name of all the chapters. And it was just sort of scattered. And then with one draft, I finally had a brain to like, I'm going to name each one, like give it a name, but it's going to be preceded with a number. And that way the file system will organize it by number. And then that got to a point where there was too many of them.
Yeah.
Because in later drafts, you got to the point where there was like 60 chapters.
Wow.
And so that got split into acts. And acts were really great because it actually forced me to focus on like small goals within the story, which made a book more achievable, which is around the time when I finally started consistently finishing an entire draft, was by the strategy of having a goal, an arc, a sub-arc, as it were, for each act that built one from the other until you get to the proper end of the story.
Right.
And so that's actually kind of funny. That's how my organizing of my book developed. But even then, I still kind of just followed some of the structure I hinted at with Michael Crichton. Not that all his books are this way. I just think of Sphere. I'm mentioning it again. I know I already mentioned it earlier in the episode, but Sphere is a very special book to me. It's one of those novels that, like, if you were to ask me what's your favorite novel, period, if I had to choose, ultimately I can't really choose because there's so many different novels out there that excel in different ways. There's such unique, beautiful stories out there. But if I had to choose, I would choose Sphere because it's a brilliant story. And it follows that same structure. I love how focused Michael Crichton was with his storytelling. I love how deliberate he was with naming the acts in the story. Like, I can remember off the top of my head, I think, now that I'm putting myself on the spot, maybe I'll forget. But I probably can remember the names of the acts in Sphere. Like, it's, what is it? It's the surface, the deep, the sphere, the monster. It's following the same structure of the noun. Yeah. And dude, when you get to the point where you're getting farther along, like I remember when I got to the final act and it said the monster, and I was like flipping out. Yeah. I did not know what was going to happen next. I thought that was completely brilliant and exciting, and it really taught me.
This was kind of a foreshadowing.
It taught me the power of that systematic approach, that structure-focused approach in storytelling. It almost makes me think that we should like maybe do an episode one time where we like kind of like, talk about. Well, I mean, I'm already doing that, but we could have like an episode focused on like our strategies for structuring a story sometime. But since I'm already talking about that, we'd have to find a very specific way to do it to make it different from this.
I think mine is just a little bit more like chapters, and that's kind of it. Yeah. But my original books of my trilogy, I did write as a part 1 and part 2, and those eventually split, became book 1 and book 2. Yeah. Because I did kind of like divvy it up a little bit. But bringing it back to kind of like nano and some techniques for, let's talk maybe a little bit about, we've talked about, hey, writer's block, it's basically nose to a grindstone type of thing. But when you're actually working on the outline, how do you go about doing that? Because, I mean, we kind of joked, right? It's like, hey, you can write a full draft, and that can sort of serve as your outline. You can go by, these are my 4 acts, and then you can start breaking them down. These are the 10 chapters in each act, and then, like, these are what happens in each scene. And then, I mean, you could take that as far as you want. You can go down to the paragraph and the sentence. But I don't think either of us work in that kind of, like, tree format. I think for me, with outlines, I typically nowadays, again, I don't like putting myself in that box. I found that just doesn't work for me. Now, the danger of that is, especially nowadays, my mind goes in a lot of directions, and I'm kind of like Loki, where I'm like, oh, there's all these parallel universes. Like, I just want to jump into each one, so I'll write like 3 versions of the same scene, which you've kind of done a little bit too.
Oh yeah, you bet I have.
But they will be incredibly different. It's like not the same. It's just like a direction the story could go, where it's like, oh, they go to the mountains. Oh no, actually, like this person ends up dying and they don't, like, they go south or whatever, But that's where I get stuck a lot of times nowadays, is I can see all the potential. And I think an outline probably could help me with that. What I primarily use it for right now, though, is world building, like kind of for my map, because I do consider that part of the outline. I'm like, okay, they go from here
really
to there, right? Like to over here, and geographically, just kind of keeping it in your head, giving it a sense of scale. I think that was a major issue with the new Lord of the Rings series, is to use an example of like a terrible,
oh my gosh,
right? There was no like sense of distance or length of time for journeys in the Rings of Power. It was just like, oh, we're here now, like Indiana Jones dotted, or actually the Indiana Jones dotted line is fantastic. I won't use that as a knock, but yeah, I want to avoid that with my own book. So anyway, that was kind of an open-ended question.
Could you bring back into focus, perhaps more succinctly, the question that you aimed at me?
Yeah, so we've kind of talked through, I guess, like the structuring, but like when you're writing the actual outline, and like say for Nano, if we were both kind of prepping, if we were in Preptober and we're writing the actual outline, it's like, what does that look for you? Because I think for me it's more like, okay, here's a sentence, here's my map, I want them to get from here to there. It's very vague. Like I keep mine super general, I don't go in very deep. What does that look like for you?
So in terms of outlining, there's really the two things that I've done. They're like I would agree, drawing a map is just as much a part of the outlining as fleshing out what chapters will be and what happens to them and whatnot. So yeah, I would say there has been the very basic like drawing of a map. Like I've got like this little, not that it's I don't think it's gonna show well on camera, but like, just for your benefit, I'll show you. This is a really minimalist gestural map, but that's like the main area where like the first act takes place.
Oh, yeah. Dude,
but that's a river.
Can you show the camera, or do you want to
show it?
It,
I don't
like,
think it's going to show well.
It's really cool looking.
Very minimalist. I don't know if that's going to show too well.
I don't know. It doesn't do it justice. It looks.
But basically,
like a painting or something.
Well, thank you. It's minimalist, but it gets the job. And I would like a more like, this is kind of like a style that I developed in drawing this out. But like, it serves the function primarily for myself first and foremost, to flesh out where is what. Yeah. If I say a character's going from A to B, is that going to happen in an afternoon, or is that a big epic journey?
Mm-hmm.
Huge. What are they going to need? What is it going to look like? What kind of threats might populate this area and that. Having these things put down on a map helps you to figure that out, and it keeps you accountable with keeping the spatial component of your story realistic.
And I would argue, even if you're an anti-outliner, which to a degree I am, you should still have a map for that reason.
Yeah. Like, okay. Huge. So there's that. That's a component. And then outlining for me has actually always been a very simple process. As I have been slogging through writing this current draft, I might need to like start really studying like Brandon Sanderson techniques.
Ooh.
And dig a little deeper. I might need to.
Lecture series, really good.
Sometimes I need to shake things up and try something new in order to kind of get myself out of a bind, because I might need to. Anyway, there's not really anything else to be said there. That's just a gut feeling, but don't worry about it. I don't know what that was.
It just tapped out. It was like it became this guy.
Yeah. But yeah, so my structure's really been very simple. It's the acts, and I decide ahead of time point A and point B for each act. So obviously there's the point A and the point B for the book.
Right.
These characters start here and they end here. And then I break it down to the acts. And in the acts, everyone starts here and ends there. It's gonna build.
So you do like plan that out. You're like,
yes.
Okay.
It's gonna build to this. And the whole point is that each act has a focus. So like Act 1, for example, it has two primary goals. One dominates the word count because it needs to in order to work. And that is introduce the world and characters.
Huge.
And that's all it's about.
Yeah.
So there's multiple chapters where it's just the characters living their lives, and you're hearing about the world they live in and what their goals are. Maybe some a bit of that, hopes and dreams and stuff like that. I try not to make some of that stuff too forthcoming because that can often feel a little formulaic, a little too typical of other writers' styles. When I might want to go for something a little more like grounded and gritty or whatever, but we'll see how it all pans out. So that's the primary focus of the words written. Is just to give you these characters. And the whole point is to amass so much content in which it's just characters living that hopefully the reader will get lost in that world, get lost in those characters, and enjoy the ride as they go along. But not everything is as it seems. From the very beginning, from the first chapter, something is referenced in the world that's off. And it's just a passing rumor. It's just a little light joke somebody makes. But it references something that I hope the reader would go, oh, that's interesting. That's different. It sounds a little exciting. And then you hear more people talk about it.
Promise, right?
Yes,
like
a promise.
Brandon Sanderson.
Yes, a promise. In the form of just like some passing gossip between some characters.
Nice.
But then you get some teases, and then you see something, and it gets more and more intense. And then there's a real threat. And then it builds up to something, but you don't really know what, because you don't actually really get to see it. And then you see the aftermath. And hopefully at that point the reader would be like, what the heck did all this? What's going on? And then finally at the very end of the act you get to see what that threat is directly, and that gives you a promise of what's going to happen next. And then you go into act 2, and hopefully at that point the reader would be engaged, invested. They're like, what?
Do you like at the end of each chapter, do you ask yourself, so what?
Oh, that's such a good question. What do you mean by so what? That's a really good question.
That's like something I've been really working on. It was actually advice from my editor, where she wrote, by the way, shout out Sophie.
Great editor.
She was like, she would write little notes at the end of each chapter. It kind of sadly became this reoccurring thing where it's just like, so what? Like, why do we care? What happened in this chapter that matters to the overarching story? And if you can't answer that question, I would argue that the chapter does not hold water.
Okay, yeah.
I've had to act several chapters. I was a little loose with it with the third book of my trilogy, but with my new book, it's something that I've really been trying to harp on, where it's like, and maybe it's just, hey, we're world building, we're contextualizing, we're, framing these characters, setting them up, or whatever. Like that can be your so what. But do you ever kind of like actively? It sounds like you don't. But like, do you have that question in the back of your head, or?
Okay, so the so what,
subconsciously, maybe?
I can satisfy. Well, I mean, I haven't really thought in those terms. I can honestly say Act 1 can give a very strong positive answer to the question, so what? Because I mean, the consequences of the end of Act 1 are cataclysmic. I mean, it's a big change for a lot of people with some staggering implications. Perhaps that's overselling it, but I mean, I'd say it's
sell that.
Yeah,
that's good.
Well, I mean, that's the whole point, is that the words themselves sell the concept, right?
Hey.
I'm just making that promise right now.
Hold on, real quick. Quote for you: "A grandmaster does not say he is a grandmaster. Everyone else says it for him."
Yeah.
So a good story does not say it's a good story. Everyone else says it for it.
Yeah, there you go.
Words sell themselves. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah. Nice. I like that. Absolutely. The so what is easily addressed in Act 1, easily addressed in Act 2, because like Act 2 has an even bigger ending than Act 1, because at that point the stakes are raised all the higher, the threat is more immediate and in your face. It's a lot more elusive, and it's a lot more elusive in Act 1. It's present, it's very clear by the end, but it's a lot more elusive, and the implications are not crystal clear by then. But in Act 2, you understand the implications, you understand the threat. At that point, that's halfway the story.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, I think the reader has a right to know very clearly a lot of stakes involved. And I think, Brandon Sanderson has taught me that clarity in the storytelling lends itself very well to the reader being invested in stakes. You know, if you're kept in the loop for how the mechanics of the magic system work and what the villains are doing and whatnot, maybe that detracts some from mystery, and there is something to be said about a loss there. However, the reader gets a chance to really understand and appreciate what's going on, and I think is given a far greater opportunity to be invested in those stakes because they know what they are,
Right.
as opposed to just some sense of mystery. And I say that because in times past I leaned a lot more heavily in trying to make my story mysterious,
Mm-hmm.
and it became at the cost of clarity, which ultimately just produced confusion. But that was, inexperience. It may be in future drafts that I have a stronger command over mystery and I'm better able to re-inject it in later drafts. But we'll see. Because the truth is, this current
Are
version
you
might
drawing a distinction between suspense and mystery? Because I do remember your books being the draft I read, draft 13.
Mm-hmm.
There was what I thought was an excellent level of suspense in the writing.
Well, thank you.
Would you equate that to the same thing? Because you are talking about stakes, and I would say suspense is stakes. You are like suspended. You're like, whoa, wait.
What is suspense? Suspense is kind of, it doesn't necessarily imply
These might be semantics.
not knowing, like, as I understand it, and yeah, this is semantics, this is my interpretation, but my understanding of suspense is like you can have prior knowledge all the way up to that moment. The suspense is created and not knowing what happens next. That would be the mystery. So more of what I'm talking about is all the above. What happens next? What happened before? Why?
Right.
All those really basic questions, if they are not properly addressed, can leave the reader in confusion. And I'm only saying that as someone that leaned when very early on embarking on the journey of writing, I leaned too heavily into it. I didn't answer enough questions, and there was too much mystery, and what happened was not suspenseful or mysterious. It just felt empty. It was just lacking chunks of what make up a story. So did that answer your question?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I was just scared that you had gotten rid of the suspense. I was like, no.
Oh no, I'm 1,000,000% still going for that. And
you're just dialing it back a little bit, and
it's a balancing act between communicating element, and I could even, like, if you wanted to just read a chapter, I could like send you one to give you a taste. If you had the time to like read, like, what is it, 2K or something like that, that's typically how
I can read that.
Yeah. It could
Nadia, I don't know if I mentioned this. Nadia sent me her draft, and then I'm also reading, my.
Yeah, you got a lot going on. You're a workaholic, man. You commit to yourself to a lot. It's impressive.
Too much.
Yeah, no, I mean,
I can't keep up with everything. So.
Yeah. Oh, hey, c'est la vie.
But that was kind of why I was, I guess, trying to differentiate like mystery from suspense. But it sounds like, there's still suspense.
I'll tell
still
you,
a thriller.
I wanted there to be focus. So when I reapproached, how do I kind of approach the more nebulous, mysterious elements of my story that are meant to be kind of like beyond human comprehension? I had a different strategy this round. Like one of the first chapters, actually, not the first chapter, but one of the first chapters in Act 2. Which is a keeper. Like, I'm keeping that chapter. I like how it goes. I like where it's going. There is a character who very clearly communicates to the other the stakes involved.
Mm-hmm.
Not explicitly, but it's clear in so much that they tell him this is a threat. However, the way
and that's a point where you can tell, right? Like,
yes.
Like,
bringing that back. Okay, that's good. So I would say, it's kind of like the way in which I approach humor in my stories. I'm going somewhere with this. I long ago kind of struggled with how do I express humor in my story when I want it to be a more dark, kind of gritty story. And I concluded, okay, well, the universe isn't funny. It's dark, it's sinister, it's tough. But that doesn't mean some characters can't be funny. It doesn't mean some people don't have the capacity to laugh at their own circumstance, much like real people do.
And they often do when they're suffering. Right?
Yeah.
It's like,
and it depends. Like, is that person the kind of person to laugh at a crazy situation? Well, they're going to make jokes.
Right.
And there you go. Or there can be funny interactions between people that they don't find it funny. They're irritated with each other, but it's still a funny circumstance. And a bystander, such as a reader, might find it funny. At which point, you can express it in a way in which the humor is there to be seen. So much like that, how there's a balancing point between the two was how I approached the mystery and the suspense in this story. So I had a character clearly communicate to the other, and thus by extension to the reader, what the stakes were. Not explicitly, but just tell them, like, hey, there's something here That's a danger to us. We need to take care of it. Here's my plan. And that's what's more or less communicated. But the way the threat itself is expressed in that moment is meant to be more mysterious. And, you'd have to read it and tell me what you think. But to kind of allude to it, I used... No, I'm just going to use what I kind of like drew inspiration from. So Stephen King wrote a novel that I read semi-recently called Fairy Tale.
Okay.
And it's about a young man who goes down this ancient well and comes out on the other side in a totally alien world, a kind of fairy tale world. And it's very much, it's very much like a twisted, dark version of... Oh crap! Why am I forgetting the name of it? The Yellow Brick Road, man.
Oh yeah, Wizard of Oz.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I totally blanked on it.
No,
it's like a twist. It's like Stephen King wrote The Wizard of Oz. It's like that, but just everything's
Dang.
off.
Okay.
And there's this horrible monster that kind of haunts the Emerald City of this
Say the
place.
name again.
Fairy Tale.
Fairy Tale. Okay.
I actually recommend it. It's a good one.
I might. Yeah.
He's got some good ones. Yeah, add that to your 100 million books. Right? Yeah,
So long now.
Yeah, man.
Because
It becomes a point where it's just like, is this for fun or what?
You and Abigail both like.
I wasn't helping, was I?
Oh my goodness, I've got so many books I want to read, but it's a good thing.
Yeah. Anyway,
carry on.
Thank you. So basically, there's like this Emerald City, and it's really fascinating how like the main character's going through it, and in the peripherals of his vision, it seems like buildings are shifting, and he looks over. And it's that classic, in the corner of your eye, it looks like something's moving, looks like something's changing, but when you look dead on, oh, it's just that. But it's too consistent for the character to just accept that as like a fluke. Like,
right.
He knows something's off. Furthermore, there's a part in the book where he's in a dungeon, and obviously this dungeon is lit by candles, like torches and all, and somebody says the name of something, and everyone's like, don't say its name. And when this guy says the name, there's just a moment where all the torches, it's dark. And it gets way quieter than it was before. And they all just freeze because like by instinct, you know something's horribly wrong. And they're all just kind of like freaking out for a moment. And then the torches light back up. The noises of ambience come back. And it's like nothing happened. And everyone's just like, yeah, don't do that again.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stephen King's really, really freaking good at suspense, man.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Dude,
and so I took some inspiration from that.
Yeah.
So now that I've like clearly outlined it for you, if and when you do read this chapter, that will be made plain to you, since I kind of like showed you my homework, as it were. But yeah, that was the strategy by which I accomplished it. A character in the know clearly communicates what they do know about the situation, thus by extension informing the reader so that the reader has a sense of where is this story going, what is our focus, and what are the stakes involved with that goal.
It's kind of like the mentor, right, on the hero's journey is like the mentor, or like the Gandalf figure who comes in and he's like, hey, we got to take the ring over here, there's this massive evil force trying to destroy you. Like setting the stakes in the stage for the
and that's the thing is you gotta, I think some information communicated to the reader is key to setting stakes. Again, if you don't tell them anything, then what's there to fear?
But you do need to balance that, like being a new writer with getting to the point, because I'm thinking of the Fellowship where it takes 100 pages for them to actually leave the Shire. It's like we don't necessarily have that luxury. It's kind of like we need to start sprinkling in stakes and tension. Like Brandon Sanderson, I'm going to bring up the 4th book of the Stormlight Archives. He can have a massive 300-page, really boring section of his book, and people will keep reading because it's Brandon Sanderson, and the end of it's going to be good, and then the next book will probably be good. There is not that level of luxury or leeway for new writers. You kind of need to balance all of that with just making sure that like you're getting to the point with chapter 1. And a mistake I made was not even having, I was writing my trilogy in 3rd person POV, And some feedback I got when I was querying at the time, this is before I like self-published, is the feedback I got was not having my main character in my own chapter 1. I had a prologue. So they were so hard. So he was in chapter 1, but he wasn't in the prologue, and the prologue was part of what I sent when I was querying. So you just want to make sure that like you're getting to it and being, you know, I'm trying to think of a better word, but like setting that launch pad up for the rest of your story.
Yes.
Yeah. There we go.
Sometimes I listen so much that I don't like actually have anything to say in response. So I was like, yeah.
I mean, hey, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
We're probably at time right there too.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah. Oh, that definitely makes it in. Yeah. Okay. Well, there we go. Another episode of the Writers Podcast. It was the first time we got to do it in person. That's cool.
What?
Yeah, man. I'd love to do it in person again. We'll have to do it when we can. And sometime in the future, man, when I've got my guest bedroom like set up, it'll be a nice
full studio.
It'll be a nice little. It's gonna be a bedroom, right?
Oh,
so like, we'll find like a wall where we can like set up, and like the camera's just gonna be where it is, and like
and I want a glowing sign that says the Writers.
The Writers,
right behind
with a cackling fire.
Ooh, okay. Forget the glowing sign then. That'll ruin the ambiance.
Indoors,
fire,
just a full-on bonfire.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and hit stop recording. So.
All right. Peace.